Hi guys, ya sabes que quiero decirte to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making biscotti. In Greek, biscotti are known as Paximadakia. Today we're going to make almond anise biscotti. These are the biscotti that I made at the bakery when we had it for 10 years. They sold out every time we made them and we had to make them often. This is that same exact recipe. It tastes better than the ones that you would get at the bakery, or just as good, because you're going to make them at home with love, with really good ingredients, and they're just going to be delicious with a nice cup of coffee. Let's get started. So I'm using my tabletop mixer because it makes life so easy, but you can definitely mix these by hand using a hand mixer. Okay, so we're going to start with some unsalted butter. This is 4 ounces or 1 stick. You want to make sure that it's nice and soft, so leave it out for about an hour, or you can pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds. You don't want it to be melted. To that, we're going to add a cup of sugar, granulated sugar, make them nice and sweet. And then the extracts. I like to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of almond extract. And pure extracts have the most flavor and the best flavor, so try to get them as high quality as you can. We're going to get the mixer going until the butter and the sugar and everything is nice and fluffy. So I like to go in and scrape down everything that's stuck to the sides and the bottom of the bowl, so that way everything mixes evenly. Now, the next wet ingredient that we have are 2 eggs. The recipe actually calls for 3 eggs. And probably for the first time in history, I ran out of eggs. So I'm going to test it with 2 right here on this video, which I never do. But we're going to see what happens. It should work. If it doesn't, you guys at home add the extra egg, please. Let's add both eggs and keep mixing. So that is good. Now over here I have the dry ingredients. So I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. That weighs out to be 450 grams. And I have a cup of almonds that I've toasted. All I did was I put them on a baking tray and I put them in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 8 minutes, or until they started to smell really nice. I let them cool and then I pulsed them through a food processor until they were coarsely ground. So this is what you're looking for. And I should have a bigger bowl for this. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of baking powder in here. You want the dry ingredients to be nice and combined. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And a heaping tablespoon of anise seeds. These really add a nice licorice type flavor. They're so refreshing and they go really well with the almond. So I'm just going to try to mix everything all together with this whisk. I'm going to go in with my hands and kind of toss everything because this is a small bowl. So I'm going to add them to the mixer a little bit at a time until everything comes together and a nice dough is formed. And once the dough reaches this consistency, then it's ready. It's holding together and it's looking really good. Okay, so at this point, you just want to transfer the dough to a work surface, cutting board, counter, whatever you use. And we're going to cut it into 2 equal pieces. Now this all depends on how big you want to shape your biscotti. If you like the long ones, like the ones you find in the bakery, you know, the really nice fancy ones, then you're going to form your logs a little bit longer and a little bit wider. If you like them really small, like the Greek Paximadakia, then you can cut each log into 2 pieces, so you end up with 4 equal pieces, and then form them a little bit more narrow so you can get smaller little biscottis. It's all a matter of preference. So I like to form it about 1/2 inch thick. And then I just put it on a baking tray. You can put 1 on each baking tray, or you could do 2 per baking tray. They fit really nicely, 2 on 1. So I like to just put both of them on there so that way they can cook on the middle rack evenly. I don't have to switch their places, like from the bottom to the middle, and everything cooks at the same time. So that looks good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of granulated sugar and just sprinkle it over the top of each one of the logs. And I'm just gonna press it in. It's gonna make a nice, sweet, little crunchy topping. And they're ready for the oven. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. These are gonna go in and bake in the center rack for about 30 minutes or until the top. They're still gonna be a little bit soft, but they're gonna be set. I'll show you what they look like when they come out. Then there's just gonna be a second step to preparing these, which is we're gonna cut them once they cool a little bit into the nice biscottis and bake them one more time. I'll show you what they look like as soon as they come out of the oven. All right, so the biscotti came out of the oven after exactly 30 minutes. You'll know they're ready once they become slightly golden all around. Then when you press on the top, your finger should not sink in. They should feel firm. They're not gonna be hard yet because we're gonna double bake them a little more. They're still slightly soft in the center. You wanna let them cool a little bit, and then with a really sharp knife, you're gonna cut them into the biscotti shape. So it's all up to you how you wanna cut these. You could do straight cuts like I'm gonna do with this one. And if they begin to crumble a little bit, saw into them first and then apply pressure going down. Don't saw all the way through. So these are the smaller ones. And I'm gonna show you how to do diagonals with the next one. So now you're just gonna wanna put them on the baking tray. And then these are gonna go back into the oven and bake for another about 20 minutes or so until they're nice and golden. I'm gonna reduce the temperature down to 325 degrees so that way they cook a little bit slower and cook all the way through. That way they don't get too dark and they get perfectly crisp inside. So I'm gonna put these in the oven and then I'm gonna show you how I'm slicing the other ones. So I'm gonna slice these on the diagonal. Same thing, I'm gonna start with a little bit of a sawing action and then just press all the way through. And you're gonna get them a little bit longer and they look more like what you would get at a bakery. And then put those also on a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper. These are also gonna take about between 15 to 20, maybe 25 minutes. Once they're golden all around and cooked fully through, you're gonna take them out, let them cool completely, get a cup of coffee ready, and then it's gonna be time to do the taste test. So my biscotti are ready, they're nice and cool, my coffee is done, and now it's time for the taste test, but let me tell you first that they took 20 minutes more in the oven to cook, so they baked for 30 minutes first, and then after I sliced them, I baked them for 20 more minutes at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, let them cool completely, and now they are ready to be enjoyed. So you can serve them as is, or if you wanted to jazz them up a little bit more, you can melt some white chocolate or some dark chocolate or both and dip them in. You could either dip the bottoms or just dip half of them in. Personally, I like to eat them just like this, plain without any chocolate. There's plenty of flavor in them and they're perfect alongside a nice hot cup of Greek coffee like I have here. Let me take a sip of the coffee first because it smells amazing. Perfect. And now let me take a little bite of this biscotti here. And if you see, they're perfectly cooked on the inside. They're golden all around. They're still a little warm, just the way I like them. And because they're warm, the center is still a little soft, and I personally like them a little bit softer on the center. If you like them perfectly dry and crisp, bake them a little longer. Maybe 10 minutes more should do the trick, but I personally like them a little bit softer on the inside. That's that. The sugar on the top adds such a nice little hint of sweetness. They're just so good, you guys. Perfectly sweet, perfectly crispy. Perfect with a cup of coffee. All the exact measurements are on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Go on over and print that recipe. You could get the link in the description box down below if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook. It's up above on the blog post. On the post, there's a link to the website, so you can just click on that. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.